Okay, as we start this lesson, I want you just to look at these two problems. We have this one right here, which is 5 plus blank, and we have this one right here, which is 5 plus blank equals 8. Obviously, there's a difference between them. If you just want to pause and take a second and think, what is the difference between these two? Why are they different? Hopefully, you realize that this one, this first one right here, does not have an equals 8, and this one has an equals 8 to it. Those are the differences. Now, that is a huge difference of these problems because this one right here says equals 8, I can decide or figure out what this blank is. This one right here can be anything. Right? Now, the huge difference between problems with equal signs and not equal signs is most people think that equal signs means the answer. When people see an equation that's like this, they say, oh, well, this means the answer is. But that is not what it means at all. The equal sign is basically like the fulcrum of a teeter-totter. There is a line, and we're saying, well, over here, there is 7 plus 3. Well, if I take my 7 and my 3 and I put them together, that gives me 10 over here. So in order for it to be equal, I need 10 over here. That doesn't mean it's the answer. It means that both sides are now equal. That's what the equal sign means. So, when I have that original equation, because I know that both sides need to be equal, that means that if I have 8 over here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here, well, if I have my 5 and my 5 gone, I still have 3 missing, so that means this has to be a 3. I can figure that out because I know that something has to be equal to it. When I have this can be anything because there's nothing over here telling me what this has to be. This can be a 7, it can be a 2, it can be a 4, it can be a 3, it can be whatever I want. Okay? That's what's called a variable. Okay? It's called a variable. That means that it can vary and be anything. All right? Now, in a problem that has an equal sign in it, like the one that we had where it was equals 8, it isn't a variable. It is something. The variable is, the answer is 3 because we have an answer. If there is no equal sign, then it can be anything in there. It can vary. It is a variable. Now, there's a name for these two things. The names of them is, like this one is an equation. It's an equation because equal. There's an equal sign. An equation is saying that something is equal. This side is equal to this side. So we are equaling something out. The top one is called, I'm not equaling anything, I'm just telling you something. And when you tell me something, that's called an expression. Because I'm just expressing something to you. I'm not worrying about equal anything out. I'm not worrying about balancing anything. I'm just telling you that the answer is going to be 10. So 10 minus 7 is 3. My expression is 10 minus 7. I'm expressing to you that I have 7 of something. Okay? Now, it doesn't have to be blanks to be equals, to be expressions and equations. These are two examples. This is an expression. 3 plus 4, I'm telling you that there's 7 of something. This is an equation. I'm telling you that 3 plus 4 is equal to 7, is the same as 7. Okay? There's also other way to balance something, so I could even have this. An equation can be 3 plus 4 equals 5 plus 2. That's an equation because, again, it's still balanced. 3 plus 4 is 7. 5 plus 2 is 7. So they are balanced. Okay? Up here, I am still just expressing that I have 7 of something. I have 3 plus 4 of something, so therefore there's 7 of something. Okay, so now that we kind of understand what expressions and equations are, let's talk about the actual variables. So we talked about before, like 7 plus blank. Okay, we won't put an equal sign, but again, now we have a variable. This can be something. Okay, now we've seen these blanks or these boxes all throughout our math life so far through 4th grade. As we get into more algebra, which is what we're starting, they become something else, and I'll kind of show you how that works. So let's say that instead of a blank, we know that we have 7 dots. Okay, we know that we have 7, and we're going to add some more dots. So right now we have 7 dots plus more dots. We don't know how many there are. Okay, but we have a picture of our dots to represent them here, and we have a word. All right. Now, in math, we come up with an easier way to do that. A variable in algebra is represented by a simple letter. What I mean by that, so instead of a picture of a dot, or instead of the word dots, we will put a D. So we say we already have 7 dots, and we're adding more dots. We just don't know how many there are. And the variable is D. It could be 5, it could be 2, it could be 7. We don't know what the variable is. All we know right now is we have 7 dots, and we're adding more dots. Here's another example. So we can start out with, well, we have 10 tigers, and we are going to lose some more tigers. We don't know how many, okay, but we know that we're starting out with 10, and we're going to lose because we're subtracting some tigers. Now, how would we write that as an expression? With a variable, we would write it like this. We would say, we don't need a picture, we don't need the word tigers. Math, again, we like to be quick, easy, and efficient, so we're just going to say 10 minus t. Now, we don't know how much that t is worth, but it's a variable. Okay? And here's the last one. Okay, here's our next one. So we have some groups of hamburgers right here. Okay, and we know that, so let's say we have packages of hamburgers, and in those packages there are 3 hamburgers apiece. But we don't know how many packages of hamburgers that we have. So how would we write that? Now this one's a little bit more complicated than the adding one we did with the dot or the subtracting one we did with the tiger. When we get into algebraic equations, which is again what we're moving into with our variables, there are different ways to write a multiplication equation. So because we're starting to use letters as variables, they don't want us to use an X anymore because they think that might be confusing with the multiplication sign and the letter X. So how we do that is this. Again, we don't need our picture. We don't need our word. So how are we going to be very efficient with our word of hamburger? We're going to write an H. Now, there are 2 main ways that they do this. So instead of writing an X, if you see a dot, that means multiplication. So H dot 3 means H times 3, or hamburgers times 3. Okay? Another way, or the most common way that you'll see it written, again to be more efficient, is you will see this. 3H. That means the exact same as this. H times 3, and 3H means H times 3. When you see a number directly next to a letter, it means you're multiplying. That's all it means. Anytime you're going to add something, you will see the sign. Anytime you subtract something, you will see the sign. Anytime you divide something, you will see the sign. But when you're multiplying and you see that H3 or that 3H or 7B, that means I'm multiplying 7 times whatever B stands for. Okay? Okay, and the very last thing I'm going to talk about is going back to these terms, okay? So when we see a variable like 7 plus A, Again, when it's an expression, we have to be told what a is to figure it out. There's nothing that we can solve. When it's an equation, we can solve it because it would say this, 7 plus a equals 12. So therefore, we can say, okay, I know that there's 12 over here. That means there has to be 12 over here. I already have 7, so that means we need 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which means that a equals 5. Okay, so when it's an equation, we can actually solve the variable. When it's an expression, we have to be told what the variable is. So we might see this. We might see like 7 plus a minus 5. And then you'll see this, a equals 2. So that means that a is now 2 because we were told. Now remember, because expressions, we have no way of knowing what a variable is until we are told. Well, we were just told a equals 2, so that means 7 plus 2 is 9. And now 9 minus 5 is 4. So the answer to this expression is 4. Just like this one, we know what the equation is because we have 12 and 12. It means we could figure out what that variable is. Right? So when you're coming things that you're going to be doing, you're going to actually be solving for variables. Okay? So that was your lesson on your 3 main vocabulary terms is variable, expression, and equation.